Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to the first episode of Ray's Game Fully's Behind the Screens. This will be an ongoing series of videos where I will talk about the details involved in the adventures from our previous game sessions. This will include some of the maps, some of the artwork, details on the NPCs, and some of the villainous schemes that oftentimes go unseen by the players. Now, if you're watching this video and you haven't seen the game session videos, there will be spoilers because I'm basically describing the entire plot of the adventure. So I definitely recommend that you watch the session video first. Overall, I'd like to say that our first session went pretty well. There are some things that didn't go according to plan, but hey, that's D&D, am I right? Hopefully the things that I felt didn't go too well weren't too obvious to you guys. What should have been obvious to you as you watched the session videos was that I sent a group of first level characters off to the first layer of hell. Why in the world would I do such a thing? Well, this was a means of getting the party out into the plains. Now, if you're not familiar with the plains, I'm going to try to describe it as briefly as possible. The plains are a set of alternate realities, different universes that are very basically described as the afterlife. Only they're places that characters can journey to and adventure in. Back in the 1990s, the publishers of Dungeons & Dragons came out with an amazing box set designed to run an entire campaign out on the plains. It was called Planescape, and it was wonderfully original, colorful, and customizable too for a setting for your adventures. Now, I don't want to tell you too much about Planescape because I haven't revealed a lot of it to my players yet, but let me at least describe the short adventure that I ran to get my players out into the plains. I'm going to put up some slides here. The adventure I ran was called To Baator and Back. It was designed by Colin McComb, and most of the illustrations were done by Tony DiTerlizzi. Tony was the principal illustrator for much of the Planescape material, and his art is wonderful. It's whimsical, but at the same time has a dark edge to it. The characters are just very, very amazing. The personalities almost jump off the page at you. So the adventure To Baator and Back is a short adventure designed to get low-level characters from a traditional medieval fantasy world out to the outer plains. And hey, if we're going to the outer plains, why not go right to the first layer of hell? The plot setup is very simple. The characters explore a ruined house that used to belong to a wizard. I modified the background just a little bit for our campaign in that the characters were out in the wilderness looking for a girl, and this was a setup for them to find and explore the house. This here is a map of the house. The module describes it as kind of built into the side of a hill, almost like a hobbit hole, and it is referred to as the Wizard's Mound. As you can see here, it's a very, very simple layout with just a few rooms. I modified it just a tad for our campaign, just because my players were new at mapping, and I wanted to give them some simpler descriptions to draw out the rooms of the house. The Wizard's Mound is virtually empty, with the exception of one encounter. There was a monster in the house that is a very, very low-level devil from the hells, ironically, called a lemure. I'll bring up a picture here. This is some artwork that was also done by Tony. There were actually two lemures in the adventure, but based on the strengths and inexperiences of my party, I figured that one would suffice. Now, they were able to defeat the lemure, and they were exploring the wizard's house, and at the back of the house there is a magical workshop with a long-forgotten magic circle inscribed in the floor that's covered by dust. This is actually a hidden portal, and as the characters walk into the room, they trigger the magic of the portal, and it sends them off to the first level of hell, which is Avernus. As they cross into the room, the magic flares up, and they find themselves standing on a hilltop in a strange foreign wasteland. And standing nearby is a small creature, which I described as a black bipedal porcupine type creature. It is in fact a spinagon. Here's a picture of one. This was taken from, I think it was taken from the Forgotten Realms wiki. I apologize, I don't know the illustrator. But they interact with the spinagon. The spinagon tells them that it doesn't know how to get off of Avernus, but it suggests that a nearby witch may know how to do so. So my party left and headed off in search of the witch. They interacted with her quite well, if I do say so. They had a little bit of combat, and then they were smart enough to realize that we weren't supposed to kill this creature. We were just trying to interact with her, so they stunned her and captured her, interacted with her, got the information they needed. Turns out she doesn't know how to get off of Avernus, but she tells them that the Pillar of Skulls may. And she gives them directions to head to the south in search of the Pillar of Skulls. This next slide here is a map of all the areas covered in the adventure. On the top left is the portal that the characters arrive from. And then across the top of the map is the witch's cave. The witch then directs them south along the river to the Pillar of Skulls, which is on the left side of the map. After their interaction with the pillar, the party has to head to the southeast towards the road you see, and then eventually towards the portal out at the bottom. Here's some artwork of the pillar. As you may recall from the session videos, they're not actually skulls, they're just heads of sages in various states of decay. I thought my characters interacted with the pillar beautifully. They were a little hesitant at the conflicting advice that they received. They weren't sure who to trust. They tested out some theories on their own, got the information they needed, which is that there is in fact a portal off of Avernus nearby, but you need a key to make it work correctly. And the key to this portal was a brick from the Great Avernus Road, which is off in the distance. The problem with getting to the road was the party would have to cross the River of Blood, which I thought my characters did very, very cleverly, using rope to get across. They did so, they found the Avernus Road, they removed the brick, and they headed off south towards the portal. Now, as they're doing this, they were spotted by some creatures that the adventure describes as gargoyle-like lizard monsters. They are, in fact, black abishai. I'll put up a picture here. Again, this is taken from a wiki, and I don't know the illustrator. But these creatures now begin to chase the party across Avernus. And this is part of the cleverness of the adventure as a whole. Obviously, first-level characters in Hell stands no chance whatsoever in combat against anything that they come across. But the design of the adventure is to always frighten the characters, to always make them think that something's going to get them. And it's this type of fear and anticipation that drives the characters forward. And if they play it correctly and if they play smartly, they're really in no danger whatsoever. But it's just the fear that death is all around them that drives the characters forward, which I thought was extremely clever. As they are scrambling to reach the portal, they spot it in the distance, and as they approach it, it resembles this. This is the first slide again. They see the portal. There's actually a creature standing in front of the portal who claims to be the portal guardian, and he tells them he'll be happy to let them pass if they take a magic orb with them through the portal. I enjoyed how my characters, or how my players handled this. They weren't too sure if he was telling the truth. They weren't too sure if there was a trick involved. But when push came to shove, the point was, let's just get out of here, and they jumped through the portal. The orb disintegrated into dust, and the party found themselves on the street of a strange city. That was the end of the adventure, but in reality, it's the beginning of everything else. Now that they're in the city, the plains are open to them, and this will be kind of the home base for them throughout their further adventures. Now, you might be asking yourself, why Planescape? You're going to all the trouble to introduce second edition AD&D to these players. Why not do it in a more traditional way? Well, I'll give you a couple of reasons why I chose Planescape. First of all, a Planescape setting with portals involved lends itself to a type of hit-and-run play scenario format. They can hop through a portal, have an adventure, have a couple of encounters, and then go back through the portal to safety. This fits very well with the type of sessions that I foresee us running. Because we're juggling so many schedules and we've got so many time constraints, it's not going to be possible to have 6 or 7 hour long game sessions. I think we're going to probably be more in the area of 2 or 3 hours. And these types of adventures are easier to run by ducking in and out of portals. A second reason is the collection of adventures and adventure modules that I'm planning on running for the party. Over the years, I've collected various adventures from various campaign settings, various cultural settings, even different editions of the game. And in the past, by running these in sequence, or trying to run these in sequence on a given game world, has proved challenging. But with the portals involved in the plane setting, there's no difficulty at all. I can send the party to the desert one time, to the Arctic the next, to heaven, to hell. They can go anywhere in a moment's notice, and it makes for an easier story to piece together with the adventures that I'm planning. A third reason is I just wanted it to be different from anything these players had ever done before. By playing in the planes, it's going to give them a chance to develop different characters than they're used to, different abilities, interact with different creatures than they've ever encountered before. And I think it's going to make for a really, really memorable playing experience for everybody. Well, that is it for this episode of Behind the Screens. I hope you enjoyed it. There will be more in the future. Our next video that we'll post will be our third session video, so please be sure to check that out. Thank you again for watching. This is Raise Game Fully, and please remember, be kind to your fellow players.